Welcome students. Today we are going to see DMA configurations. What all are the configurations for direct memory access? The first configuration is single bus integrated DMA IO. That is, there is a single bus between processor DMA IO for communication. We know that bus is nothing but it is a conducting wire or communication wire between the processor and the IO devices. So here the data from the processor DMA and IO is shared between a single bus. So single bus is responsible for sending the data from the processor DMA and IO. So that is about the first configuration. The second configuration is there is two separate buses, that is the input output devices have a separate bus. So this bus, IO bus, is going to carry the data from the IO devices to the DMA and from the DMA to the IO devices, and the DMA processor and the memory, they can communicate through the system bus. So the two buses are going to carry the data from the processor, DMA, memory and IO devices. So this is the second configuration. Now we want to see the IO techniques. What all are the IO techniques? So basically we are interested in the memory transfer or data transfer from the IO to the memory. It can be done using processor or without using processor. So if you are using processor, so it can be either programmed IO, that is the processor is dedicated, no interrupts are there, and another way is interrupt driven IO. So in this, the processor is not dedicated, as in when the requirement arises the processor will intervene. So that is the data transfer between IO and memory using the processor. Another method is what we had discussed, and that is direct IO to memory transfer. That is, the data is transferred between the IO and the memory, but the processor is not used. So that is direct memory access. So it is just the summary of all the things that we had seen from the starting. Now what are the design issues that are to be taken into consideration? So the first and foremost design issue of any system is obviously efficiency. So we want to bring out the IO devices efficiency to the maximum, as we had discussed many times that the processor is running at higher speed or executes at higher speed as compared to IO devices, or the IO devices are very slow as compared to the processor. So if the system is using multi-programming, that is there are multiple processes, okay, and if the processes are IO bound, lot of time of the processor is wasted waiting for the IO devices. So that is the first important thing that is to be taken into consideration, and that is efficiency. Because the IO devices cannot keep up with the processor speed, it is a problem. So swapping has to be carried out. Swapping has to be carried out for increasing the efficiency. That is the first design issue in operating system, or it is the thing that the operating system has to take care. Another is generality. To be general, that is the IO devices should be in position to handle all the type of data in an uniform manner and hide the details of the IO devices in the lower level itself. That is, we know that a user may not be familiar with all the functions of the IO, or it may not be familiar. If you are using a printer, we need not know the inner details of the printer, but we want to carry out printing operation. So the generality is an important design issue in consideration with the input output devices. So these are the two design issues. First is efficiency and second is the generality. Next we want to see how buffering is carried out. Now what is the use of a buffer? Buffering is carried out, okay, whenever you want to store the data. Now the data can be stored for use in future, or it can be stored before it is transmitted to another end. So this buffering is going to handle how the data has to be stored or whether the data has to be stored. Now this buffering performs input transfer in advance of the request, that is before the request may come, the operating system will try to save it, and before it is sent, it will, before the output request comes, it will save it. So the buffering can be carried out in two ways. It can be either block oriented or stream oriented. In simple terms, if I say block oriented means the given data, that is the data that is sent by the IO devices, that is received by the IO devices or to be sent to the IO devices, can be in blocks. That is, you can send the data only in block format. So that is a block oriented device. But if the data is freely flowing in terms of bytes, no block structure is required, then it is a stream oriented device. The disk and the USB keys are example of block oriented devices, and the stream oriented devices example, if we say, is printer or the terminals. It is going to handle the data in the form of streams. So block oriented devices, it has a fixed size of block, and within that block size you have to send the data or we can receive the data. In case of stream oriented devices, there is no block structure, the data flows in as stream. So this is the two different ways in which the information is received from the IO devices. Now operating system in some cases can do without buffering or it can do with buffering. So each concept, that is with buffering or without buffering, has its own advantage and disadvantage. The advantage of buffering is if we want to use it in future, we can use it. That is, if there is a data failure, it can be retrieved once again. But if there is no buffering, the retrieval of the data becomes a problem. So in the first scenario, the IO devices is going to input the data. So intermediate, there is an operating system. This operating system is supposed to store this data, but as there is no buffering, operating system is just going to transfer the data to the process. So if at all this data fails, the operating system can do nothing. So that is about no buffering. But if you consider a single buffering, that is the IO devices is giving the data, that is, it is an input device, it is providing the data, operating system will store this data and it will send the data to the user process. So that is, it is involving a single buffer. So this is an example of single buffer. So in various applications, the operating system can handle the data without a buffering or with buffering. So it depends on the application. Now let us see single buffer. So in single buffer, operating system assigns a buffer in the main memory. It will allocate a buffer in the main memory. Okay, so whatever is the data that is inputted from the input device will be stored in that buffer and it will be moved to the process that requires it. So that is about the single buffer. Now double buffer, it uses two buffer, one is for input and another is for the out giving back. Okay, so the IO device is going to send this data, it will be stored by the operating system. Okay, and another buffer will be moving the data to the user process. So that is double buffering that is carried out. So a process can transfer data to or from one buffer while the operating system empties the other buffer. So the data that is given is in this way and the data that is taken out is this way. So the operating system will be emptying the buffer and the input device will be filling the buffer. That is double buffering. Now to bring things more in a speedy manner, we can also go for a circular buffer. More than two buffers are used, and these buffers are going to be used in circular way. That is, this input device is going to give the input, the operating system will move it in this way. Okay, so it will use any two buffers. In the same way, if the output device is giving, it will be stored here and it will be given to the user process. So likewise, it is the buffering is carried out in a circular manner. Now next what we want to see is about disk scheduling, which will be covered in the next video.